Hello and welcome. This is a pick a card reading all about your next obstacle. What is the next obstacle that you are facing and overcoming? And we'll get some advice from Spirit on how to overcome. I have prepared 3 different decks for you to choose from, picked out some crystals, so let me give you a close up. This will be group number 1. You know what? I'm just going to cut the deck and give you a peek at the deck imagery. So group number 1, we have the page, I think this is the Page of Wands. Interesting that it's not actually clear. Very interesting. That's group number 1. Group number 2 is your crystal, clear quartz. And we have the Emperor when I cut the deck. Group number 3, this is Green Moonstone. By the way, the first one was Amethyst. I don't think I said it. Green Moonstone for group number 3, and we have the Two of Wands, but notice how this, oh, these are multiple, so we'll put them back. Two of Wands when I cut the deck for group number 3. So take a moment and see which deck is calling you, which crystal is calling you. There's a lot of movement over here. And then the timestamps will be in the description below, and I will meet you at your reading where we are taking a look at the next obstacle you're about to overcome. I'll meet you there. Hi, group number 1. This is your reading if you chose the Amethyst. We're going to set this down right here, and then we're going to get right into it. I'm going to try and keep these messages concise and to the point. So for group 1, let's take a look at where you are currently or where you will be before this obstacle materializes. So we have the Two of Pentacles. So this is a moment of consideration, a moment of weighing options, possibly waiting things out a little bit. Let's take a look at what obstacles come in your way. We have the Five of Wands. We have the Four of Pentacles. And then we have 3 cards. I will take them the way they came out. Okay. Interesting. I want to get one last card though for where you'll be after this obstacle. Okay, let me try and make this a little bit more. So we're supposed to have an arch here, but the way your cards came out is pretty heavy on the back end, and I think it's heavy on the back end because there's going to be a lot of realizations headed your way, and it has to do with something where you are almost hesitant about sharing. You seem hesitant about sharing how you feel or how you think about a situation, and I think you're about to overcome that. There's some kind of situation that you'll be facing where things could go one way or the other. You almost feel like, I can make do if it turns out this way, and I can make do if it turns out that way. I think that's what you're telling yourself. You do have a preference though. There is a lot of differing motivations happening, especially with the Five of Wands, right? There's a lot of differing directions that people want to go. This might be a situation of two people, because we have two snake heads here, I just heard Backstreet Boys, I want it that way. I want it that way, and I want it that way. How do we overcome? And I think there is a moment of you trying to be like, okay, I'm just going to hold on to what I really hope would come out, but that holding back is going to lead to you actually then being faced with the obstacle. So this holding back, I think, occurs before you overcome this obstacle. And overcoming the obstacle to you is going to look like really taking stock of, what do I expect? I have no idea what that beeping noise is. I apologize. And it is very confusing. It is confusing, but it is distracting, right? And I am getting the sense of you almost being distracted by someone else's words, possibly by someone else's motivations. And so overcoming this obstacle for you is about standing up for what you believe in, standing up for where you draw the line. And that's going to require some strength, and you're going to be really proud of yourself at the end of overcoming this obstacle. Look at this strength card. But I will say, because we have the Five of Wands here, and then this energy of kind of like holding back, trying to make something work, and then at the end we have the Five of Swords. I do believe that this comes down to really expressing something. And there's like a wind blower going on right now. It's going to be really difficult for you to focus. It's going to be difficult for you to actually I cannot believe how much noise there is going on in the background right now. It's really going to take you recentering around your beliefs. I'm getting strong, this is strong fire and Jupiter energy. This is really about like, where do you can't just go along with the drives of others, right? This is about you realizing that you have to fuel your own drive as well. And look at how motivated this odd kind of bunny is. Yeah, there's definitely like a refocusing of what do you want and what do you believe in, and stand up for that. The Five of Swords, going from the Five of Wands to the Five of Swords is very much about like, this is kind of like, okay, but I was hoping that we would, and then this is like, okay, listen, we need to talk about this because I think, and notice how there's two snake heads here, right? And there's only one snake on this depiction of the Five of Swords. Yeah, your next obstacle is definitely overcoming this hurdle of not wanting to cause commotion, but it's really about standing your ground, and it's about, you're not causing trouble. It's about making sure that your needs are met. Oops, let's get some Astro dice around this. And we have the 10th house, we have Mercury, and we have Capricorn. This is definitely about standing in your power. So the 10th house is the highest point of our chart, so it is how we are perceived, but it is also how we operate in the world in terms of our legacy, our career. So this could have to do with some kind of work situation. But again, I am feeling strongly that this is a situation between like two people. And in that case, it is about you really standing in your power and communicating, Mercury, what you almost demand in terms of structure so that you can be part of this team. That's where the Capricorn energy comes in. Let's get an oracle card. Yeah, we have fruit. We have fruit, and notice that there's at least two sets of hands, so it's about really working together. And you can't work together unless you actually express what you really want and what you really need and what you really believe in. If you just go along with someone else's, then if you're going along with someone else's motivations, you're really just kind of appeasing someone, but you're not truly working together. Confusion. Growth hurts, heals, and harnesses a way through the uncertainty. This confusion is definitely what you're going to be overcoming, because you're overcoming these conflicting motivations. And I know I keep saying the same words, but it is conflicting motivations, because part of you, I think, wants to keep the peace, and part of you really is like, I can't keep this in any longer, because it's about truly expressing yourself. And so that's where this confusion comes from. But growth hurts, heals, and harnesses a way through uncertainty. Once you overcome this, you're going to feel a lot more centered and a lot more able to truly cooperate. Let's get one more oracle card, and we're going to close it out. And we have secrets. Yeah, along with this Four of Coins, this is definitely about you needing to speak up, needing to express something, and it is something that you've been holding in, and it is possibly like a direction that you want to take something in. It is something that you've been wanting to do, but it's really like something's been holding you back. Okay, I think I'm gonna leave it there. Let me see. Right as I said that, of course. Let's get one last oracle card. Let me see how we can get just some last advice. I mean, overall, Spirit is definitely saying, like, figure out how you can comfortably express your needs and your beliefs. And you're definitely going to get through this. The Strength card is a clear indication of that, and that confusion from the Two of Pentacles and this card here isn't gonna last. Inner peace. Absolutely. The happiest of all lives is a busy solitude. This card is more about like the inner peace part. It's really about not internalizing that confusion, letting it out so that you create room for inner peace, so that the confusion can be addressed outside of yourself instead of keeping it in. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you so much, and I hope that this was helpful, and I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi Group 2, this is your reading if you chose these clear quartz focus. There we go. I'm going to set this right up here, and we're going to get right into it. So this reading is all about how to overcome the next obstacle you're facing. Obviously, we're going to take a look at what that obstacle is and see if we can get any advice. It's always nice to have a little bit of a map of where we're headed. So let's see where you're at right now. or where you will be when this obstacle arises. So we have the Page of Swords. There is definitely, when you are encountering this obstacle, there is definitely a enthusiasm to meet this head on. There's like, I can figure this out. There's like this confidence of like, I can figure this out. Don't seem too worried. Then we have the Hanged Man. And we have the Sun. That's an interesting obstacle to have. This is interesting. So it looks to me like part of your obstacle is actually allowing in positivity. I think there is a hesitation, there's an issue with trust here. There's something that wants to change your mind. There's something that wants you to soften, but you are very protective and possibly a little bit exhausted from being so protective. There is a there is an ask here for you to change how you view a certain situation, possibly a person. It might actually have to do with I apologize for the sirens and the leaf blower. I mean, as soon as I started recording, everyone just decided to show how loud they can be outside. There's possibly some kind of connection around some defensiveness around wanting to prove something to parental figures. That's a possibility. But overall, there's something where you're like really kind of wanting to figure something out, but you're approaching it in a very kind of calculated way, not in a negative sense, but in a very logical way. And I think Spirit is telling you that this obstacle isn't going to be approachable in a logical way. Because we're coming in with the Page of Swords and then immediately the Hanged Man, and it's like being stripped of that logic, being stripped of the perspective that you seek. You really are trying to be like, okay, I want to figure this out. And it's funny because I did say like it's nice to have a map, right? I didn't say that for group 1. So the fact that there is this desire to figure out the lay of the land, like, and Spirit immediately is going to put you in your place and be like, no, like this is something that you can't think your way through. This is something where you have to feel your way through. And that might end up being a little bit confusing to you because I feel like there's going to be a lot of defensiveness when it comes to actually listening to your feelings. Your feelings might have let you down in the past, or you felt like they led you astray. But ultimately, this overcoming this obstacle leads to you being a lot more appreciative and patient with yourself and a situation or someone. Let's get a card on this Sun. That is a very interesting obstacle to face. We have the Moon. I think this really just kind of confirms, and we have the Lovers at the bottom of the deck. This really kind of confirms to me, both of these cards, that there is some kind of hesitation of around trusting your emotions and trusting optimism. You're having a hard time leaning into optimism, leaning into feelings. Honestly, I think the next obstacle, and I think you're very prepared for obstacles, so I think the next obstacle for you is kind of the fact that there is no direct obstacle, but that in itself is an obstacle to you because you're so like over anxious, not like super anxious, but you're very much like on guard and you're like ready to figure something out, right? And then I'm getting like this imagery of somebody being ready to fight, right? You have your sword pulled out, you're ready to face something, and then you're sent into this room, and in this room is nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's dark. And so you're really on edge because, you know, you're thinking of all these things that could lurk in the darkness, when in reality it is just a room of nothing. And there's no light. There's no way for you to figure out what is in front of you. You can't see it. You can't analyze your surroundings through your visual field. So you have to feel your way into it and recognize that there is nothing in the room that is trying to harm you. And then within that process, you gain a new understanding of your emotional abilities. And it's like at the end of this experiment of you being in this empty room, it's not easy, but at the end of this, you're like, okay, I really appreciate, and again, there's some kind of appreciation around yourself. So possibly along with this imagery, it might be about solitude and and again, because I was getting these hints of like possibly some kind of tie-in with parental figures, this might have to do with self-parenting, moving away, especially because we have the Sun and the Moon, that is the mother and the father. This might have to do with being in that room and realizing that you're on your own in that room, and you have to self-parent, you have to self-regulate, you have to address your emotions. And this leading to you really appreciating this process overall. Especially with the Lovers at the bottom of the deck. The Lovers card is about kind of like aligning heart and soul. Yeah, so we have the Death card come out for this Queen of Pentacles, and we still have the Lovers at the bottom of the deck. I'm gonna leave them uncovered, but we have the Death card because there is this, I mean, that's quite a transition, right? To go from a page to a queen, and that only comes from having a major arcana, the Hanged Man, it really bringing a lot of, so that this is not a short-term obstacle, right? This is an emotional clearing. And I wouldn't even say clearing, because I think it's actually an emotional collecting. Because it's like taking stock. It's like really addressing, bringing light to an emotional state which you possibly avoided in the past. And with this Death card, we're getting a lot of really processing and transmuting this. And that's going to make you feel very proud, because you're like, okay, I really did something there. I really worked through my feelings there. Yep. We have the 12th house, which is the house of the unseen, the subconscious, dreams. So there, and especially with the Hanged Man, there might be, this might be something that doesn't really, this might be an obstacle that you don't necessarily encounter in your waking life, but you get a lot of weird dreams and they make you think. We have the Moon again, which is all about your emotional state. And then we have Aries, which is like this drive, this energy to figure it out, and it is like an energy that is like focused on you, and that is the drive that you're coming into this with. So this is still helpful. This is not a negative place that you're in. You're really wanting to figure something out. It's just that this obstacle is teaching you that there are some things that you can't figure out with logic and with intellect, that it's really something that you're going to have to feel your way through, and this is a major lesson for you. Let's get some oracle cards. And again, with the Sun and the Moon, I do strongly feel that there is some kind of correlation with your parents, self-parenting, possibly the emotional impact that your parents have had on you. Oracle card, first one out, is Dive In. That's exactly it. There is this, and look at how this is just a black space, right? Just like the black room. It's this room that you go into where there's nothing, which also indicates that you might want to look into meditation. But there's this nothingness, especially with Dive In and the Death card. And I don't mean nothingness in a scary way. Try to reframe the Hanged Man. Nothingness in a way of having room to just be. Having room to just exist versus being in a room where there's other people, where there's expectations, right? Being in a room where there's absolutely nothing gives you, especially with the 12th house as well, it gives you a place to just breathe, meditation. And then at the bottom of the deck, we have depths. You're exploring a lot of depth that I think you haven't explored before, especially with this Page of Swords. I think there's something that you kind of tackle and you think it's just going to be one thing, and then you realize how much deeper it runs. And it's really going to surprise you, but you're going to come out of it so refined and so more assured. And so like you go into this wanting like a map, and you come out of it with like inner knowledge. Like you don't need a map anymore. You come out of this knowing that you're going to be able to face every turn of the road when it arises. We have Melting Mask. Allow your spirit self to shine through the many roles you fulfill. Through the many roles, this is what I'm kind of seeing with this Nine of Wands, like all these different expectations that people have had, that you've possibly created by appealing to people in a certain way, you know? Melting Mask, allow your spirit self, that's really the exploration of the 12th house, of that dark room. The Hanged Man is all about a spiritual enlightenment. So this is definitely a very spiritual journey. So in terms of like your next obstacle, I think, you know, when thinking about this reading, I was thinking on a more like everyday kind of scale, but this is definitely like something that is a longer journey, and that is going to really, really have a profound impact on how you see yourself and the world. Yeah, touch the sky. You're being definitely called to spiritually new directions at the bottom of the deck. You're definitely being called to spiritually explore. And with that, I'm gonna pull a card from this deck that I made myself that is kind of like a Spirit Whispers deck. And this is really about how to kind of get in touch with your higher self, with spirit, whichever you are trying to get in touch with, something that might be attractive to you in order to really kind of lean into this spiritual journey. So let's get a couple cards because there's going to be different avenues for everyone. So we'll see what comes out. We have deities. So this means that you could be working with specific gods, possibly ancient gods. You could be called to a certain archetype. And if that's the case, you might want to look into that. We have light. And that's interesting because we are talking a lot about this dark room, and with this dive in, there's this copy of you but in dark. 12th house, death card. Those are all very dark energies, but that's exactly it. And the fact that we have the sun as like your main obstacle, it's going into that dark room and recognizing that you bring light into the darkness. Bringing your awareness into it means that there is something there, right? It's not an empty room as soon as you're in it. And you are worth exploring. This is all about self-exploration. This is a beautiful, beautiful energy to be in. But I know it's not easy, absolutely. Let's get some more. And we have nature. Actually, I want to get one more. So going into nature can help you ground yourself, especially when you're dealing a lot with, you know, this darkness, trying to spend some time in the sun, paying attention to the cycles of the moon. Really tuning into nature is going to help you stay grounded during this journey and travel. Immediately with that, I'm getting that you might be able to travel, especially because we were talking about dreams earlier. You might be able to travel in your dreams. With the 12th house, with the Hanged Man, with the moon and the sun, there's definitely possibly some astral projecting that you're able to lean into once you feel comfortable. And that is something that has to be, you know, you really have to dive into that very carefully, very aware. And there is this opposition when you astral travel. It is really important that you understand how to ground yourself when you come back, before and after. Understanding how to do grounding work, that's where nature, like, it is important to... Astral travel is an incredible feeling when you're able to do it. Because it's kind of like your soul, your energy really kind of going for a ride. But it's also important to understand that you are here on earth to have a material experience, and to appreciate that through experiencing nature and really not neglecting your physical experience, okay? Somebody needed to hear that. I'm going to get one last oracle card, and then we are going to close it out. Sorry, I just realized that the image is really dark, which is funny because, you know, we've been talking about all this darkness. One last oracle card for group 2. This is a lot longer than I wanted it to be. Rise up. Yeah, this is absolutely about a spiritual journey. The human body is vapor materialized by sunshine, sun, mixed with the life of the stars. The tide has come, act now. Yeah, you're absolutely, your next obstacle is, understandably so, still not easy. It is still an obstacle, which is why this reading came up. It is still an obstacle to you, especially coming from someone with an analytical mind. The spiritual journey is really taxing and really confusing. but there's a lot of beauty ahead of you. So, and look at, right as I said that, I realized that this card kind of moved over. It is work. We have the 8 of coins down here. It is work, but it is absolutely worth it, and you're going to be so grateful for having done the work. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope I get to read for you again sometime, and until then, take care. Hi Group 3, this is your reading if you chose the beautiful, let's focus, thank you, beautiful green moonstone point. I'm going to set this right here and we're going to get right into your reading. So we are taking a look at your next obstacle. What is the next obstacle you are facing? And we will get some advice on how to deal with it. Let's see. Let's take a look at where you're at now or where you will be before this obstacle arises. So we have the 8 of Wands. Very motivated energy. Wanting to make something happen. And then we have the 8 of Cups. We have the 6 of Coins. Interesting. So this is your main obstacle, is the 6 of Coins. We have the Emperor. And then we have 2 cards that came out at the end. We have the King of Swords and we have the Ace of Wands. At the bottom of the deck we have the 2 of Coins. So, what I'm seeing for you, there's a lot of motivation and a lot of difficulty when it comes to grounding. When it comes to grounding your motivation. I think part of your next obstacle is allowing people in. Allowing people to help you. There's a lot of things that you are trying to ground, and when they don't land, I see this kind of deep disappointment, even though, okay, so this is what I'm seeing, right? There's all these wands in the air. They have this trajectory of landing somewhere, right? And imagine there's like a bullseye here, some kind of target. And some of them kind of hit it, but none of them actually like hit the middle, like the bullseye. And from that, I sense like a deep disappointment within you. The fact that none of them actually hit a bullseye. So even though there is this sense of there's a lot, okay, there's a lot that you are very good at. I think there's a lot that you are very skilled at. There is some difficulty here around expectations. Definitely some difficulty here around, well, if I tried hard enough, then why didn't I get the results that I wanted? Obviously, I must be going after the wrong thing. That's what I'm sensing. And Spirit is very strongly disagreeing with that sentiment. I'm getting from Spirit, like, don't... I'm sorry, this sounds very harsh, but this is what I hear. I heard, don't cry just because it's not your time. There is definitely within this overcoming of the obstacle, within this journey, there's some kind of realization that you come to that's really going to fuel you in a new way, in a more precise way. You're going to, instead of throwing, this is very much like throwing a pot of spaghetti on the wall and seeing what sticks, right? And instead of doing that, you're going to be a lot more precise. We're going from the Eight of Wands to the Ace of Wands, and it's like, okay, I'm a lot more precise. Instead of trying a whole bunch of things, it's like I'm being more deliberate with where my energy is going. I'm also feeling strongly that this might have to do with career, that this might have to do with a job. This could be like job applications, and you are sending them out to things that wouldn't, to jobs that wouldn't fully appreciate all the things that you're naturally good at. And likewise, if it's not about a job, this can also have to do with dating or relationships, like really kind of putting your hopes into something where you wouldn't be fully appreciated, where you wouldn't get your fair share. And that's, I think, the obstacle, is that the way something is playing out from your perspective, you're like, this isn't fair. But from Spirit's perspective, because they know what's coming after, they're like, no, this is fair. It's like you're asking for too little in some sense. Because your energy is kind of scattered, you are asking for too little. But Spirit knows, they're like, no, we're not going to give you that little thing that you are asking for, because we know that you're worth more. And so the challenge for you is to understand that you are the Emperor and that you are worth more. And that then brings you to a place to be a lot more precise with what you're asking for. Yeah, the Two of Coins at the bottom of the deck, right? That's very much like, oh, but I want this and I want that. And it's just kind of like a very non-committal and non-direct energy. And your energy throughout this obstacle is going to become a lot more direct. And it's going to be so much more... I'm trying to get a word. It's going to be a lot more intentional. So much more intentional. This is like, I'm good at a lot of things, so whatever works out, works out. But Spirit is like, no, yes, you are good at a lot of things, but no, it's not whatever works out, works out. There's something that you are exceptional at. You're good at a lot of things, and there's something that you're exceptional at, and you need to recognize that. Same goes for, I'm strongly getting for most of you, this is going to be career, but same goes for love and relationships. It's like, oh, I'm just like dating around, just trying a lot of things out, and Spirit is like, yes, that's fine, but know that you are deserving of more, because you are the energy that you are willing to bring into a relationship is exceptional, so you need to be more precise in your pursuit. Oh, I like that. Be more precise in your pursuit. Which means weeding out red flags a lot sooner, right? Same goes for job search. Weeding out employers a lot sooner, because it's like, no, that's not something that I'm passionate about. No, that is not enough salary. No, that is not enough benefits that come with that. No, this is not a realistic offer. Like there's some kind of disappointment because you haven't gotten exactly what you want, but there's somehow Spirit is saying that's a good thing. It's a good thing that you haven't gotten what you want, because you don't want enough yet. Oof. Okay, let's get some astro dice, catch some energies around this spread for group 3. We have the 3rd house, we have Scorpio, and we have Neptune. I just heard a quote. I am hearing, "You mustn't be afraid to dream a little bit bigger, darling." It's a quote from Inception. The third house is about communication. It is about how we think. It is also about like your tight-knit community. Scorpio is about really a lot of depth and passion. Neptune is impossible to box in. Neptune is a far-reaching, very dreamy energy. So you mustn't be afraid to dream a little bit bigger. That's the problem. You're not dreaming, even though you're throwing yourself at lots of different things. That's not the point. That's not the way to dream bigger. The way to dream bigger is to precisely know, I'm going for that, and I'm going to get it because I'm deserving. That is beautiful energy. It's a very clear message. Very clear. So let's get into some oracle cards. And overcoming this obstacle really has a lot to do with understanding your worth and what you bring to any situation, whether it is career or whether it is relationship. Understanding what you bring. I'm just getting this imagery, especially because we have the Emperor. It's like, I'm getting the sense of you wanting to sit. This is so random. But just because I'm seeing him on his throne and the King of Swords on his throne, you're like wanting to sit somewhere and you're willing to sit on a stool if you have to. And Spirit is like, no. There is a throne waiting for you. Why would you, an emperor, be caught sitting awkwardly on a stool? There is a throne that was built for you, and it is waiting for you. We have weave. Yes, weave is definitely giving me this idea of dream a little bit bigger and really kind of expand your reality of what is possible, which is interesting because it's like you're so close. I think you believe you're already doing that with this Eight of Wands because it's like you're sending your energy in a lot of different directions, but that's not quite it. Instead of sending your energy in a bunch of different directions because you're splitting your energy, right? It's going in all these different directions. Spirit wants you to harness it and send it with full force in one direction. I hope that makes sense. There's really something about being a lot more precise with your energy. And also, this doesn't mean, okay, if you are looking for a job, for example, right? This doesn't mean don't apply to jobs that you want. This doesn't mean don't go on dates. But this does mean be more selective, be more critical, and just more aware of the outcome. Because I am getting the sense, especially with job applications, I know how it is when you're like, I'm just gonna apply to everything. That's fine. But are you putting energy into manifesting that? And that, and that, and that, and that? Which are all things that you're like, I would be okay with that, but it wouldn't like bring you fulfillment or happiness. Focus your energy. It's totally fine to go out dating and try different things on for size, right? But focus your manifesting powers, your energy on what you truly want. Because if you haven't figured that out, then how are you going to get there? This one. Accountability. Yes. Responsibility is a gift of love to yourself and others. You know what I'm getting from this is accountability in this case, because there is this like this disappointment of like, nothing I've tried has worked out. But did you want it to? Did you want it to work out? And did you want it for the right reasons? There's this sense of once you take accountability of what you really deserve and what you really are capable of, you're going to be able to harness that energy a lot more efficiently and direct it in a way that will make it impossible to miss. Like you won't miss your shot, because it's not so much that you're just throwing spaghetti against the wall, but you've created like a web for what you want to come in. And we have Rose Garden. Rose Garden in this reading, to me, especially with the 9, and we have the 19 over here, is very much about the fruits of your labor. When we think of a rose is like, especially with the Emperor here too, a rose is like the most coveted flower, right? It is like the most elegant. It's something that has thorns as well. It takes time to bloom. Some roses are very finicky of when and how, the conditions they bloom. But also, I want you to pay attention to this caterpillar around her neck, almost like a necklace. And then this butterfly right here, indicating that there is a transformation, right? And we have this butterfly with the King of Swords over here. So there is a reason to go through this cycle. The caterpillar has to get through the cycle of really acquiring a lot of food and sustenance so that it can turn into a butterfly, right? So don't feel like you've wasted time or anything like that because you've scattered your energy. Scattering your energy has helped you figure out, will help you figure out where to direct it. But there comes a time where you have to take accountability, where it is time to bloom, where you are going to have to decide which direction you want to take it in. Let's get one last oracle card. Again, I just want to summarize right quick. Your obstacle is that you believe that the lack of results in your life is unfair. And Spirit believes that the lack of results isn't actually a lack. It's just that you haven't focused your energy yet. You haven't put your sights on what you actually want. If they were to give you what you've asked for, you'd be missing out. And we have rebirth. For a star to be born, there is one thing that must happen. A gaseous nebula must collapse. There's this idea, this whole, especially with this 8 of Cups, there's this whole construct of expectations that you have that has to be re-examined and that has to be corrected, because there is more. There is more. Let go of the past. Yeah. Don't look back. You're not going that way. Let go of the past. Use healing crystals to help facilitate the process of letting go. Try rutilated quartz, smoky quartz, aquamarine, or citrine. really just about letting go of expectations that you've had in the past and letting go of, again, this is something I said in the beginning, this expectation of I did A and B, so I expect the universe to provide C and D. That's not quite how it works. There's a disconnect in understanding how to achieve something. It's not you provide this, they provide that. It's you set your intentions and then focus your energy on D or C and D, and then they provide the steps for A and B. But you got to focus your energy. You got to focus where are we going? Where are we going? Weave your web. Because right now you're just shooting. It's like with this web or weave, there's structure here, right? There's structure to any spider web. This is really kind of like shooting it all in the same direction. So again, there's nothing wrong with trying a lot of different things, but understand, how do these intersect? How do they connect? Where is the common denominator? Because that will then create this, right? Because then wherever my fingers overlay each other, those are the common denominators of your wants. And that's where you'll see this weave, this web that you've woven, that leads to the most common denominator in the middle, which is where you should focus your energy. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. I hope that this was helpful. Very fascinating energy. I do think this is a little bit of a longer process, and I do hope you absolutely have so much potential, and you really just gotta power through it and take accountability and really examine your expectations and your worth. But you are, after that, you are golden. Whatever you set your eyes on, whatever you set your sights on, that you are going to be able to manifest with a lot more intention. Okay? So thank you for hanging out with me. I hope that this was helpful, and I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care.